Hi, I'm Ralitza Spassova, and I'm a Mastery Method certified transformational coach. I support my clients in taking where they are and taking ownership of their life to create the life that they truly love, in passion, in their purpose, fulfilling their potential, and exceeding it. Right now, I'm going to talk to you about 5 different ways that you can bring more satisfaction to your life. As we know in the ICM, Institute for Coaching Mastery Method, we can try to create results from this place of not having enough, or we can create results from this place of knowing that we already have what we're trying to create. Because usually behind the goal, there's a deeper desire. And usually that deeper desire is something that we already have, but we're not presencing, we're not realizing that we have it. So once we bring awareness and we can embody and embrace having what we already want, from that place, we can create our goals 5 times easier. And this is scientifically studied and proven that it is absolutely true. We accomplish our goals 5 times easier when we're in this state of awareness and acceptance that we already have what we want. There's just a goal that's external to us that we're trying to accomplish. And once we reach that state of being in flow, a lot of people do research around flow state when it comes to sports, but it's less well studied and talked about when it comes to the way that we live our lives. So once we can accomplish flow state in our lives, that's when the things start to happen. Some people call it the scary things or the spooky things, those things that you just can't explain, those happy coincidences where you think of something or someone and then the next minute they call you or message you, or it's on your doorstep, or you think about applying for a position and somebody offers it to you before you even apply. So what I call those happy coincidences are synchronicities. Those are you putting out into the universe what you want. If you have a faith practice or religion to God or whatever you believe in, but truly believing and trusting that it's already yours. Any major religion will tell you, ask and you shall receive. If you trust in full faith, it will be delivered. It doesn't say anything about a time when it will be delivered, but having true faith and trust and knowing that you already have it. This is exactly what we're talking about. Living from that place that you already have the thing that you want. And it's truly having the deeper desire. So today we're talking about satisfaction, but you can apply this to anything in your life. Whatever kind of deeper desire or goal that you have, it's really important to just recognize and realize how are all the different ways that you already have what you want. So this week, each day, we're going to talk about one thing that you can do, simple thing that you can implement into your daily living to feel more satisfaction. So today we're talking about number 1, which is to slow down. A lot of times we live our busy lives. We go from one thing to the next. We have a schedule and it's packed. So slowing down helps us to really be present, to connect with ourselves, to connect with the people around us, and to connect with our true purpose, our calling, our authenticity, and live from that place of truth. The thing is, a lot of times we grow up in cultures and societies where things are taught to us, whether we like them or not, whether we align with them or not, whether the values that are put onto us are our true values or just things that we've picked up from our environment, from our parents, like I said, from our society, whether it's from TV, whether it's from the news, whether it's from social media. We pick up these habits and these patterns and these belief systems, which a lot of times are actually made to be programmed so that you can't accomplish your deeper desire, so that you can't live in your full authenticity, so that you can't step out and say, I want what I want and I won't take any less. Because from this place of empowerment, you can't be controlled. And we're not going to go down the path of talking about control. But I will say slowing down is one very important tool. And it's the first step to any sort of coaching relationship. It's the first step to knowing yourself. It is the first step in going fast. If you want to go fast, slow down. That is what my mentor coach, Alyssa Nobriga from the Institute for Coaching Mastery, she has dedicated her life to create this mastery method coaching program. And it is so powerful. And the first and most important thing she says is if you want to go fast, you have to first slow down. Now, it's really popular nowadays to meditate, right? A lot of people are gaining wisdom on the impacts of meditation. And the one very important thing is that meditation absolutely helps us to slow down. Now, for most of you who have a regular meditation practice, you've probably found the balance already between the time that you started and the time that it became a regular habit for you. But for all of those people in between that are just getting started, or people who don't necessarily have a regular meditative practice, a lot of people have the same reasoning and excuse behind not continuing. Well, when I slow down, all these things come up, right? And that's perfectly normal. That is part of the wisdom of slowing down. So first, a lot of thoughts will come up. A lot of people stay in their minds. Some people are more emotional. Emotions might come up. Some people don't really go into their heads into logic and reasoning or emotions. They start to feel tension in their bodies. So whatever it is that comes up for you, the most important thing is to sit with it. To slow down, to accept whatever's happening, to breathe into it and allow it to be here. So once we slow down, if we're more heady, like for me, I start to have a lot of thoughts that come through. I was diagnosed with ADHD as an adult, with inattentive type of ADHD. So it wasn't very obvious as I was a child. And a lot of women do have this. It's quite different from the ADHD that boys and men experience, which is more of the hyperactive type, and not to put people into categories, but that's just the way it is. So many of my friends, family, colleagues, people that I've spoken with have inattentive type, which tends to go undiagnosed for a really long time because it doesn't show up as physical hyperactivity. Anyways, I digress. That's not what we're here to talk about. But it does show up in meditation as a racing mind. The thoughts don't stop. And so a lot of people who have these sort of symptoms, they sit down to meditate, but then they feel that it's unproductive because all they have is racing thoughts. And very commonly they say, I can't meditate, and they give up. But the truth is, the racing thoughts are there. And because we judge them, we get stuck with that racing mind. So if we're able to just slow down and let the thoughts be here, letting them go as they come, just letting them come, being aware of them. Oh, there's that thought about my shopping list. Okay. And then letting it go. Not even checking it off and saying, oh, I'll deal with you later, but just, okay, pure acceptance, breathing into it. And with that acceptance, it passes. So a lot of these ways of our subconscious or our ego showing up is because we spend our daily lives, day in and day out, pushing through. We don't spend a lot of time with ourselves. And so once we do finally slow down, the ego has a chance to say something. It wants to be heard, just like you and I. And so when it comes up and it starts to tell us things, we start to judge those things. Oh, that's fear. Oh, that's this. Oh, that's that. Oh, I want ego death, right? But if it's up to me, I don't want to kill any part of myself. I want to create a relationship with compassion to have a healthy, integrated ego. I want to be able to learn from my ego. What are my fears? If a fear comes up, trusting that it's there to protect us, that's seeing it with compassion, with acceptance, with awareness. And then when we breathe into that, if it's a physical contraction in our body, that's the somatic piece, right? You can feel it in your body. You breathe into it and you allow it to be here. Usually whatever comes up, it is a guide towards your values, not what mom and dad taught us, not what society told us, not what we learned in school, not what we saw on somebody else's Instagram post or Facebook or whatever, but our true core values. So the first way to actually access, if you don't know your core values, that's perfectly fine. Many people don't. So you can get a list of values and really narrow it down. Sit with each one and see which one feels good in your body, which one lights you up, which one makes you feel expansive and light. And then with those values that are tight and constricted, those are usually the ones that are imposed on you that don't actually feel good in the body. So we can cross those off. We can say, hey, we've lived so far with this value, but the truth is that's not my value. And today you can make that choice. Actually, I am going to choose my values instead of living out of the values of somebody else. Okay. So when we slow down, a lot of people already know the science behind it. Everyone talks about the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. So when we're in fight or flight mode, or when we're in attack mode, or when we're in danger mode, that sympathetic nervous system, that adrenaline rushing, that like we need to survive, that activates the brainstem, the part of the brain, which is also called the reptilian brain. And that's the brain that's responsible for survival. All of the other higher order functioning parts, the emotions, are in the next part of the brain, the mammalian brain. And then we have cognition and social thought and philosophy. That's in the neo-mammalian brain, the part of the brain that's even higher order, which humans have. And so if we're constantly in that state of stress or fight or flight or fawn or freeze, there's so many different ways to call it. But the reactions that we tend to have tend to go with those. We're either ready to fight, and that can feel like a racing heartbeat, sweating, palpitations, losing your voice, right? So that sounds like anxiety, and that's exactly what it is. The physical feeling of anxiety is that fight or flight response in our body. So another thing that actually feels like heart racing, palms sweaty, deep, shallow breathing is also excitement. So there's different ways to look at the physiological response that we have, because when we're excited about something, it's the same physiological response. But because we've attached the definition of anxiety, because it comes from fear, we judge it as something that's bad or negative. Who's with me? I know that just landed for some people. Yeah. So when we can breathe in and trust instead of fighting against that fear, when we can breathe in and recognize that that fear is there to protect us and it has a beautiful intention, we can meet it with compassion and we can say, oh, okay, I hear you. Yeah, it might be scary to apply for that job, or it might be really intimidating because I don't have all the qualifications. Or, I don't know, falling in love, I don't know. It's kind of scary for me, right? Trusting other people, it's kind of scary. Yeah. Going and driving a car, it's kind of scary. Yeah, because a few years ago when that happened, there was an accident and I was involved, and now that's something I never want to do. The ego creates and holds on to stories and creates fear out of our past experiences. So a lot of times in therapy, people will go into their past experiences and be able to figure out how to get through those experiences in a more intellectual way. So in a way that they can actually breathe through and get through them. Therapy is beautiful for people with big T trauma. It is absolutely necessary if you can't hold your own experience to be held by someone else. And a lot of us, we have experiences in the past that we might not even remember until we do slow down and until we do come to that place of awareness of our past, awareness of our stories. And the ego finally has a chance to speak up and say something. And it's really important that if you have had something that you can't hold on your own, those emotions come up, those thoughts are racing, you can't function anymore in your regular daily living, it is so important to seek the right professional to support you. So if that's true for you, please make sure that you seek someone who is certified to hold you, a trauma-informed specialist, a therapist, so that they can support you to be able to hold that experience, to be able to sit through, to be able to get support. And once you can hold that, then you can move through. As soon as you can feel it with compassion and acceptance, then you can move through and use the wisdom moving forward. So when we talk about slowing down, a lot of people don't talk about it from a trauma-informed lens, but it is really important that if you're going to do any of these sort of slowing down, meditation, breath work, anything like that, that you're well aware of your internal environment, about your past, about your trauma, about your triggers. And if it's something that's outside of what we call the window of tolerance, that energy that you can hold by yourself, if you can't hold it by yourself, don't do breath work. Don't do this meditation, slowing down, all these things. Seek professional support. Now, if you're in a space that you can hold your trauma, maybe you've had support already, maybe you've had therapy, and you're ready to move forward and take those learnings and apply them to your life moving forward, and create aligned action steps once you've sat with it, once you've learned from it, once you've processed, once you've been able to actually sit in acceptance, the aligned actions will come. And that's what coaching is. And that's why I absolutely love what I do. We go deep. As deep as you're willing to go, that's where we go. And if you can hold it, then we can work with it. So when we slow down in coaching, we're able to tap into our truth. My superpower as a human being has always been to see people in their absolute essence, their core, their being, their light, their life, their passion, their purpose. That is what I am called to do. I was called into medicine to become a healer, and I realized that pharmaceuticals, as much as they're very, very important in certain situations, they're not going to get to the very root of the problem that caused the issue in the first place. And absolutely, they're needed to put out the fire. However, to me as a healer, that wasn't enough. I didn't want to be a firefighter. I wanted to be somebody that supported people in finding their truth. And so to me, transformational coaching is my calling. It's my purpose to hold my clients, friends, family, everyone. It's just what I naturally do. I see them in their essence, and I see and hear the stories that they live out of, and I'm able to hold them in the safe space so that they can recognize the story that they have versus the essence that they are. And from this place, you too can create a life that is aligned for you, that you absolutely love, that you wake up excited for. You learn from the ego, you integrate it, you have a beautiful relationship with your physical responses, your emotions, your mindset. Everything is aligned and in the same place. And from that place, we create flow state. And from that flow state, everything becomes 5 times easier. So if it's a transition in your career that you want, I'm starting group coaching for people who want to transition in their career. A lot of times, people in career changes have very similar stories that hold them back. That failure to launch is being in that fight or flight or freeze, fawn mode. right? When we're in that stress response, we believe the stories of the ego and we fall back in inaction, and we don't actually make the change that we know is meant for us. We may not apply for the position that we know is there for us. We might have even been thinking about it. Hey, I would love to be the VP, but they'll never choose me. They'll never take me. I don't have enough experience. There's Joe Schmo over there. They're definitely going to put him in that position. And so you don't try, right? What about the dream career that you've always wanted and you suddenly notice that they're hiring? Why do you stop yourself from applying? Because you make up the stories that you're not good enough, that you need more experience, that you are not as good as the next person that might be applying. But what I challenge you to recognize is that if you can see it, if you can vision it, if you desire it, if you deeply desire it, and it's within your core values, that is not a coincidence. That is life handing you exactly what you asked for. That is a synchronicity, and it is beautiful, and it is for you. So today, I ask that you take some time, slow down, listen to the mind, to the physical body, to the heart, to your gut. When you slow down, all of these intuitive senses that we have, they come up to support us, and they're so beautiful. And from this place, once we get into the regular habit of slowing down, journaling is really powerful for people who don't often slow down. The people with the busy minds just write it all down and then it comes out into physical form. Journaling is also really important if you want to manifest. Anything that you want to create for yourself, write it down. So it's not one of the 5 ways to satisfaction that we're going to be talking about, but it is one of the most powerful ways to tap into your truth and start to trust that truth and create from this space of alignment. So I hope our time together was in service to you today. And I hope that you are able to take even just 5 minutes in the day. And you know what they say, if you think you don't have 5 minutes, then you need to take 15. Okay. That was me for a very, very long time. Sometimes I still get caught in these habits of racing on to the next, to the next, to the next thing. I'm a 3 wing 2 on the Enneagram, which means that I'm an achiever and a helper. And I tend to hide behind my achievements. Instead of slowing down, I want to do more. So if that's you as well, I totally get it. I hear you. And even though it feels productive, I promise you, you'll be way more productive when you do slow down, when you do scale back, when you put breaks in your day for yourself, when you're not rushing from the first to the next, to the next, to the next thing. You'll remember where you put your keys. All of my symptoms and signs of ADHD, a lot of it has truly slowed down. And I don't have any of them when I'm in this flow state. When I get out of my flow state, when something triggers me and I don't deal with it right away, that's when my symptoms spike. I forget things. I'm late. I take on too much. We're all guilty of it, right? I know those people out there with this diagnosis. I know exactly what you're thinking. Aha, that's me. And for those people who haven't been diagnosed, which are so many of us, think about it. It doesn't mean you have to be medicated, but think about your symptoms. They're not irregular for someone who is hyperstimulated. If your nervous system's always on go, you're not slowing down. You're not taking the time to be with yourself, to be present. And the more you integrate slowing down into your life, the more you will feel satisfaction. Because it's a win-win situation. If you get stuck with all the things that come up, I've given you the tools to take those things and slow down and learn from them. If you can't, please go to a therapist. Find somebody to support you. Get counseling. If you can't afford it or can't find it or whatever the stories around that are, I don't believe it because there are people out there who can support you. I am 100% certain. And there are many affordable options. There are many free options, government supported, If you are resourceful enough, you will find your answers for that support. Please look for it. It's there. Get support, get help. And when you do slow down, and when you hear your intuition, and when you feel your intuition, trust it. Sit with it. At first, it's uncomfortable. Believe me, I know. I've been there so many times. And rather than pushing through the uncomfortable, rather than pushing through the resistance, it's so important to slow down. And from this compassionate space, be with it. Be with that uncomfortable feeling. And as soon as you breathe into it, it'll lighten, it'll relax, because now it finally has your attention. It's like that screaming child that won't stop screaming and throwing temper tantrums. They just want to be loved. They just want to be accepted. They just want to be heard. So slow down and hear what your ego has to say. Slow down and trust your intuition and tap into your truth. And from that place, you start to live from your truth. And that's when everything lines up. And it is so beautiful and it is so powerful. And I would love to hear how this served you, if it helped you, if it didn't, if you have any questions, concerns, comments, suggestions. I'm so open to taking them, and I so appreciate them. Thank you for being with me today. And I look forward to tomorrow, where we're going over the second thing you can do to bring more satisfaction into your life. Because when you live from your truth, your true authentic self, you trust your intuition, you trust your body, your mind, your ego, and you integrate it in a healthy way, there's no stopping the satisfaction. All right. Enjoy slowing down, and I'll see you tomorrow for the second thing that you can do to have more satisfaction in your life.